You know, Hamid Abu Sulaiman, bless him, he said, Islamization of knowledge is moving towards a moving target. I remember when he was here, and I think this is really something that when we want to develop our new bodies of knowledge, we have to keep in mind that the context is always changing. And I think this is our challenge. You know, Islam and Islamic law was considered to be so advanced. Yeah, it gave women their rights, for example. But today, it looks like as if it's, you know, it's out of date because of changes and that. So how do we address that? So can I just open to others from other disciplines? Hopefully it's not an economics question.
General question.
From Sharia perspective.
Just a general one. Thank you very much, Dr. Fathi. I have just one question. In your presentation, you emphasize a lot more on to do, because it seems that we talk too much on Islamization, but we are lacking in terms of doing it. Yeah, in terms of doing it. I just wonder, I have a concern that whether if we just do it, because we mentioned now we need to have more experiences, you know, and to do experiences, that means we are basically doing experiment, which means that we may be in the correct direction, the right way, or we may do it wrongly. And if we do it wrongly, so there will be casualties. You know, we may have misled people or something. We do it wrongly, where the results may harm the whole Islamization effort. So I just wonder, what would be your advice so that we know, and whether how should we know that whether we are ready to do Islamization or not? I mean, what are the qualifications? I mean, right now, let's say I'm here. How would I know that yes, now I am ready and I can just, you know, do this, take up Islamization and experience it, and then hopefully I will be in the right path?
Well, these are strategic questions that I raised.
Can we just go back to those questions? I would love to see the question on screen. I mean, those questions are very important actually. Yeah, thank you.
We have obstacles, we have challenging questions and strategic questions.
No, just now. It was the question, this one. The question.
Yeah, more.
Further down. Yeah. Okay. After this.
So many slides.
After this. The next one.
These are obstacles. Legitimate questions. You see, now I'm concentrated about higher education. Here we are in higher education situation. So we are talking about ourselves now. Okay, what does it mean? That's your question. What does it mean to use IOK? And what how do we describe the degree of maturity of experiences? And what kind of qualification? If we need to train people, if we need to, what kind of qualification to do this training?
Dr. Fathi, your question number 4, Dr. Irwan was a graduate of our double degree program, Bachelor Economics, Bachelor IRKH. And I'm not sure about him, but many of the students who went to this program said that it was like living in 2 different worlds. In economics, they are taught like this, the way the lecturer speaks, literally, language. Going to IRK, totally different world. So it was up to the student to integrate it in his own mind. Okay, 2 separate worlds, and so that's number 4. At least in our case, it was not.
Do we really live in 2 worlds? It's impossible for a person to live in 2 worlds unless he is always thinking about the other afterlife. Okay, but in your certain years of your life, you are living. So your life is integrated. If you miss the understanding of this integration between the 2, that's your problem and our problem, and in education, in fact, that we teach ayat without any relevance to the real life. We teach our life without thinking of any kind of Islamic background, etc. This is the challenge that we need to address, and the problem in this is usually that we don't care sometimes. We don't care about that. Okay, I learned this, I passed the exam, I got the degree, and that's it. Okay? So I think that in my understanding and my experience in life, this is this is a waste of life. If you live your life without thinking of the hereafter, this life has no meaning at all. The same thing when you think about your Islamic background and your real life, the realities of your life. It's nonsense to separate them. So that's why I'm saying that integration is something natural in our life. If we don't do it, we are not natural in ourselves. We are not the product of, we are losing the wisdom of Allah creation and ourselves. So that's why something is related to our own personal understanding, not as just one person, but as a professor, as a student, okay, as a person in the marketplace, as a person in the profession, etc. So it is not something related to the personal understanding for herself or himself. It's for everyone. So if a professor does not have this kind of integrated understanding, he is not qualified to be a professor, at least in an Islamic university.
But assistant professor can.
Assistant professor can.
Assistant professor can. Professor or assistant professor. Because
Okay, anyone on Zoom? There were 2 or 3 on
He is
Zoom.
professor at the
Anybody you have a question you want to ask?
Sorry? On that point, if you don't mind, I think it's a very interesting discussion. If you allow me, the brother.
You have to speak louder. You have to speak louder.
The brother is, I think, asking a genuine question that I've heard many times from young scholars. They're afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of making mistakes that then they end up misleading the students in their textbooks. They say this is the Islamized version of this concept or this approach. And I think it's a genuine question, and your response is also very valid. The only thing is there's a missing point there. There are 2 things. One is, how do we know we are right? How do I know that I'm right now in this? The second thing is, how do you have a system where you make sure that you don't stop intellectuals from exercising their creativity and their effort to do research to come up with new material for Islamization? And I think there are 2 things here. One is the research, and one is the textbooks. The textbooks is where the students come in. And I think we have the Thomas Kuhn's paradigm book that he discusses in his book. And I think there are 2 things. One is intellectual research at the elite level, where people at your level, in this room here, discuss this concept and have debates and dialogue and discussion, and you have this discursive dialectics where you agree, you disagree, you have arguments. And I think this is above the level of students, and this we shouldn't stop. And I think your point that we shouldn't let this to be only one person's idea, but a collective effort to come to a point where we agree that this is the Islamized concept of zakat, for example, of taxation, like I was mentioning. So,
paradigm shifts.
Paradigm shifts, yes.
Yeah.
Changes. We have to allow for that process. The people have to disagree and argue and have discussions, peaceful and harmonious, to come to a point where we agree on such a new concept. But at the same time, we have to have a mechanism where after all this is happening, we have a way to come up with a new textbook or new understanding where we make it public to the students. We say, okay, this is our ijma', or if not ijma', at least most of the scholars agree that this is the Islamic perspective of this particular concept, and then we bring it up textbook level.
Okay, we have 7 minutes more.
So
before we stop.
do you agree with me that these are 2 different processes? One is the research and intellectual discussion at the elite level, where you need really good understanding of Quranic worldview and all that. And one is the production of textbook, where we have to work together and there has to be checks and balances. And not just everyone come up with a textbook, everyone come up with a textbook and then confuse people. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think so. I think, at least in my experience in making textbooks, at one time, it was in 1984, I finished my PhD and preparing to come back to Jordan. I asked my professor, what is the latest textbook that I can take with me to Jordan to use it? I need the most developed, and he said, you will not find a good book, but wait 2 months and I will send you the copy to Jordan. And he did, in fact. The book was written by 3 professors at our university. The advisor was one of them. They did not write books in their life except that book. They were doing teaching and research and publishing small research, as you know, for promotion and so on and so forth. With this huge experience they got, they put it all in one textbook. It's about 800 pages with very good book. So the idea that example, for me at least, that's what Abdul Hamid Abu Salman was always saying, that Fathi, don't worry. We need to accumulate more and more experiences. It's not one-shot work. That's why one of the questions I did, okay, how long should we wait to reach that level of doing the right processes at 1 generation, 2 generations, 3 generations? Yeah, we need some time. If our generation, you are young, not from our generation. If my generation has failed to do that, okay, your generation will be more able to do it. If you come out with at least halfway, you will do the rest of the. So we are more, the centuries of backwardness in the Muslim Ummah. So it will not be solved with 1 year or one program or one project. It needs some time. It needs a lot of work in order to create this paradigm shift. Okay, so that the new generation will doing it very easily because they have experiences. So that's why
what you said, we need a lot of material. I think if people have if people have this view of not wanting to do because they are not sure if they are right or wrong, then you will not have any material.
That's why I am, as you know, I'm working now on a manual for methodology of epistemological integration. And the challenge in doing that manual is to bring some examples and analyze these examples. Okay, that's the problem that we are asking Professor Aslam to help us in identifying few examples in various disciplines, in economics, okay, for example, in sociology, in psychology, examples that it's reasonable examples, it's a move forward in this. So we need this kind of preliminary manual which will be updated year by year or every few years according to the development of new experiences and better experiences in that. So hope things will go in the right way.
In the office here, the teaching materials project, we fully support Nike. What is it? What is the Nike? Yeah, just do it. Just do it. All right. No, don't think about. I'm not ready. I don't have enough knowledge. Just do it. You have a course outline. Convert that course outline into a book. We call it teaching materials book, not textbook.
Sounds like Michael Jackson too.
Yeah, just do it. Okay. So, and then we have a review process. So if you got it wrong or if you don't have it right, reviewers will tell you what to do, etc. Right? Then it's being used in the classroom. Your students will tell you.
If you want to do something, just do it.
You know, and you know, to end this first session, I have been teaching foundations of economics, Islamic economics for now 30 years maybe. Right? So about 10 years ago, it was 20 years. We didn't have a book. My graduate, my student who went to the finance department, within 2 years, he wrote a book, Foundations of Islamic Finance. So I asked him, congratulations. He said, yes, I've been teaching it for 2 years and I got no book. And I was thinking to myself, I was teaching it 20 years and we don't have a book. Right? So he just did it. Right? And he
Just do it.
came out. And people will comment and give criticism. Alhamdulillah, FIE book has come out. So we are 10 years later than him, but it's out. Yeah, so my advice would be just do it, you know, and don't worry. You're teaching a course, write a book. And we call it course book. Right? So it's not a textbook, because textbook gives the impression as if it's the authoritative view. Write it and then continuous improvement. I think that's what we are looking for, inshallah. Okay, we've come to the end of the first half. We take a short break, 15 minutes. There's some refreshments. We'll come back 10:45, and we really want to have some experiences if you share. We've got two, but they're both in economics, unfortunately. Yeah? They will share something. I've told them strictly 10 minutes, so they will present 10 minutes on what they are doing and what it means to them. So others, please, if you can, we would like to hear from you, because I think the second half, Dr. Fathi wants to listen and maybe he will make some comments about what you're doing. Right? Don't worry about people criticizing. I don't know. To me, I think this is natural. As an academic, we present, we get criticized. Right? So it's natural. It's part of your profession. Right? So we've got quite a number. 13 participants. I see even some from Dr. Ahmad Lubis from Indonesia is there. Yusuf Yu from Hong Kong. So thank you all for joining. I hope some of you also may want to share your ideas when we come back in the second half. Unfortunately, for those on Zoom, you will not be able to have refreshment with us. So take a break and have your own refreshments, and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes, inshallah. Yeah, all right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Why you don't come here?
He needs a new house. Roslina, okay, she's not here, but Roslina is Prof. Fauzan's. She was here, she said that. Lily Suryani, Abdul Latif. Oh, she's outside? Okay. Norma Wati, I think she's in... Oh, sorry. But you're from science, right? Kuantan. So you came all the way from Kuantan. Okay. So.
I have something during the weekend, so I just say back to Assalamualaikum. I'm from Department of Marine Science, Marine Science. So I work on algae, or harmful algal bloom. Focus on harmful algal bloom. But for this project, I'm going to prepare for the first year students. So I'm going to give them foundation on marine science. What is marine science? I'm going to try to relate with Islamization, try to integrate, so that the student, when they, because this is the first student, first sem, first class. So I'm trying to integrate with Islamization, so that when they go through the 4 years, so they have some ideas and looking at marine science in different way. Not only looking at, for example, the wave on the wave, but they're going to think about who created the wave, why the wave is created, and something like that. So
okay, marine science, all right. Sharifa, Monira, you're online. You want to just... You want to unmute and say something? Okay, maybe she's not. Muhammad Anwar. You just left? Irwan?
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Irwan Arifin. I am with the Department of Economics, Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences. For IIIT project, I am writing a textbook to integrate economics and maqasid sharia.
Okay, Zuraida. From Zuraida.
I'm Zuraida from Materials Engineering, Kuliah of Engineering. But now I'm moving from material engineering to engineering education. So basically for the IIIT books, we try to come up with a book titled Engineers and the Society, which is trying to make to put ethical decisions, how the engineer make ethical decisions through maqasid sharia. But they didn't know about deontological ethics and everything is more to Western perspective, but we want to make it into through maqasid sharia.
Okay, Nurul Ashikin, you're online. Are you able to unmute and just say something? No?
3, 2, 1. Next.
Amelia? Amelia is also not here? How come? Everybody just came to listen to you. Everybody came to listen to you and then but you know, like I said, this is first day of class, so this is a challenge. Now I'm going to skip the PG students, please. Adam Musa is also student. Okay. Isham.
I teach philosophy. I taught philosophy.
Jasmine, just tell for those who don't know.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Jasmine. I'm establishing a Nikola car manufacturer. No, I'm joking. I'm Jasmine. I'm an assistant professor at the economics department. I'm teaching courses like Islamic economics, issues, Islamic economics, macroeconomics. And as far as IIIT is concerned, I'm with IIIT for 13 years, I can say, being a student of IIIT, product of IIIT and IIUM. And currently, and for a few years, I'm research affiliated with IIIT. And at the moment, I do have a strategic research program grant, whereby I am going to look into integration of knowledge, methodological development, and operationalization for Islamic economics applications.
Okay, thank you. Reza?
I'm also with the Department of Economics here, assistant professor. And with IIIT specifically, I'm developing also a textbook on development economics and economic development, trying to bring in the Islamic experience and even try and bring in the Islamic values, you know, with SDG and all of that, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. Nurul Shahira? Oh, you're a student? Okay. Oh, PG, sorry. Fatima Saad?
I'm a PG student, but if you don't mind me sharing my research.
Okay, alright.
I'm from the Kuliah of Education and my...
Education?
Yes.
Ah, K-O-E-D.
So my final research will be on the integration of akhlaq and Islamic ethics in preschool education, and also creating a teaching guide to teach, because a lot of research shows that while it's present in curriculum, the application of it is not there.
Okay, thank you very much. Jamil and Mehmet Oze?
He's not here.
Okay. Associate Professor Istan. All right. Okay, so with that, you know, and of course all the PG students, welcome to the session as well. I think you may be having another session with Dr. Fathi today, so you know you'll be full of Dr. Fathi by the end of today. All right, welcome back, and we have quite a few with us still on Zoom. Our second half, we want to get those who are here to share some of their own experiences. While Jasmine is setting up, maybe Dr. Isham was saying something just now. He wants to have a few minutes just to give some of his ideas, general, before we may go to specific disciplines. So,
you were discussing the idea of the social science methodology. but you did not touch natural science. I know I was there when Faruqi was, I was in Chicago when Faruqi was organizing these thoughts. But the natural science method actually affects the social science method. In fact, social science is like following everything that natural science does. So when we discuss in philosophy, we discuss the term positivism. So positivism has created a great deal of problem where nothing that you sense, is not material, it doesn't exist. So the argument for whether ethical values are objective or not objective, whether they should even be included, has become very, very problematic. As we discuss in most Muslim countries, the relationship between Islam and science is also very problematic. Most Muslim countries are very backward in science and even antagonistic towards science. We enjoy technology, but we don't want to do science. So how do we reconcile these two? We need to reconcile revelation and reason. I did my thesis on something like revelation and reason. Not very successful, but well. Until we actually can openly discuss these two issues. What revelation brings and what reason brings, and how to reconcile the two. I don't think we will be any more successful in the social science endeavor if we do not actually discuss more basic issues. Can I get a response on that?
Have you heard about Muhammad Abdullah Draz?
Yes.
Have you read his book?
A few pages.
Yeah.
I read the themes of the Quran or something like this.
I think he faced this problem when he went. He's an Azhari from Egypt. Went to Sorbonne to get his Ph.D. in philosophy.
Yes.
Okay. He started listening to this Orientalist teaching there, and found they cannot go along with them at the PhD level. So started from the beginning and did a BA in philosophy like any other student, to get the real sense of what they are talking about. Then he moved ahead and start writing about دستور الأخلاقي في القرآن, the constitution of akhlaq, of values in the Quran. To my understanding, this might be one good example to be investigated and at least analyze in order to get some kind of experience of how he did that, how he acquired the French philosophy experience from his professors, and try to contemplate on that and recreate his understanding, his Quranic understanding of this kind of knowledge. I think this is a good example to analyze and see this kind of experience. Another experience is Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman himself in doing his PhD also. Okay, he did his PhD in international relations. When you read the book, it's in English and Arabic. Of course, he did his PhD in English. It was read in Arabic. He went there to study for PhD, and he got all the knowledge that's available for him at that time. Then he went back to write about international relations, how the idea of international relations in the perspective of Islamic law. Okay, and he wrote that book from some kind of experience in integrating what he has got from his learning in Pennsylvania, and from what he can understand from his own Islamic heritage. The book is mostly about heritage, about Islamic heritage. That was the level of concerns for him. But it's also another experience. There are people who have done who has faced this kind of problem and try to and they got some kind of experience. So you are adding to that. It's good sometimes to in the review of literature. There's always in higher education you have to read all what you can read about the topic they are doing, okay? So that you don't recreate the wheel. You build on. You understand what is available. You make your critical analysis of what is available. You find yourself somewhere in that huge amount of and find a point where you think you can add something. So and at the end it's your personal experience, which is built on accumulated on the others.
My basic question is a little bit more basic. I mean, we are neglecting the idea of positivism. Positivism basically argues it must be material. You must be able to see it.
Not necessarily.
No, positivism.
Not necessarily.
We're talking about scientific positivism. Anything that you cannot sense, see, touch doesn't exist. It's nonsense. So
that's where you can put input.
That's where we need to address the issue of positivism. So human science method now also goes to address scientific method, which is therefore empirical. It's not ideological, it's empirical. Now,
but we don't accept positivism. Yeah.
You do.
We don't accept positivism. We accept empirical research.
All your empirical method is based on positivism.
If you cannot empirically prove says it, only that exists. Yeah. We don't accept that, but we do empirical research.
You don't accept it without realizing you're doing what positivism has said. One. The other thing is that you are not addressing why you don't accept that.
Yes,
so positivism needs to be challenged. If you do not challenge it, you never will be able to change people's mindset. So now we're talking about whether so positivism has become one of the major issues which people seem not to recognize. So in this country we don't teach philosophy of science anymore, or hardly do. So scientific methods never been challenged.
Dr. Hisham was one of the few lecturers who was hired to be in the Department of Philosophy, which closed down. Then he was exported to Suluddin, which also closed down.
Dr. Hisham, Professor Hisham.
Yes.
We repeated the idea that we start from the available knowledge, right? I don't exclude positivism at all. I don't exclude scientific method at all. It's part of the knowledge, the available knowledge that we need to adapt, not adopt. Adapt. By adaptation, you put your mind, your critical mind on it. You accept what you can accept of it, and you accept a lot of it, and you add your own input. Okay? I don't say that, no, this is positivism and I am Islamic. No, this positivism, this great mind, the great minded of Europe that created positivism have their basis. The idea now, you see this idea of materialism in general, or Darwinism, or there are pieces of information which is valid that you can use, and you can add your input to say that, okay, I accept that and I add. What you add something not to exclude everything and start from the beginning. You see, at one point in 1986, when this idea of Islamization started, Abdul Hamid and the others were in Saudi Arabia, and he is of Mecca. Anyway, I don't to go to that. So they started a university there called Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Saud University, okay, and started a college in human sciences, علوم إنسانية, علوم اجتماعية, social sciences. and they started to adopt Islamization knowledge. But they said that we will not say it Islamization, we call it ta'sil. Okay? Mashi. But the majority of them, because they are in Islamic sciences, they said, okay, we will exclude all sociology, psychology, etc. We will start from the Quran and will create Islamic knowledge. And they form a committee, large committee, okay, composed of Islamic specialists and social scientists, okay, to cooperate with each other, to start from the Quran and build a new sociology, a new psychology, etc. And they spent 3 years arguing with each other, and they finally dissolved the committee and dissolved the whole idea. It's impossible to do that. Quran is not a book of sociology or economics or this or that. Quran is a book of guidance to create knowledge in economy and sociology and so on and so forth. So whoever creates something, it's there for you to look at it, accept some, okay, change them, adapt them, adopt them, etc. It's very valuable information and knowledge that you have to start with. Okay, so idea of positivism has many positive aspects that you can adopt or adapt. You add your perspective, you add your vision, and you start to straighten your way in dealing with this.
Why I raise this is actually the simple thing. When you are reading a Western text, you must be aware of the background. When you are reading a Western text, you must be aware of the influence of positivism.
Of course.
If you are not,
of course you have.
People have even never heard the word positivism. Even scientists have never heard the word positivism.
Yeah.
But positivism plays a very important role even in your social science method. They did not realize where this method came from, why it came from, and therefore only then learn how to adapt or change it. Without knowing where it comes from, what's the philosophy behind it, you will not understand.
والله يا أخي I went to Britain, I went to the United States. I did not find any problem to deal with what is available knowledge, whether in education, science education, or philosophy of science. My minor in Ph.D. is philosophy. I did not find any problem that. Okay, I am listening to you. I understand you. Okay, you are right in this, but I can add this too. So he will, what his response will say, okay, I can understand you. Yeah, you have the right to think this way. And I tell him, you are right to think this way. Okay, and this kind of tanawwu', this kind of variation of information, of knowledge, is also something important in human knowledge in general. People in Europe and America and everywhere are looking forward for Muslims to have their input, and they will respect that input if it is really solve some new problems that they are facing.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's an important point. If I can connect it to the work plan. The work plan that had all those steps. Simplified, you had the Islamic legacy on one hand, and you had modern knowledge on the other. Both require critical analysis. We are sometimes more, let's say, easily accepting the critical analysis of modern knowledge. We sometimes have more difficulty critically analyzing the Torah. But at the end of the day, both need to be critically analyzed.
Yes.
We may need to reject certain things. We can accept certain things, and we need to adapt or modify a lot of things. And then these things to be integrated. I think that's the challenge. So we have example from Riyasat first on something that he has done in his PhD, looking at Islamic banking. and please, for the others, if you have something in your own areas, we will come to that. But since they are both in economics, you're going to be overdosed with economics a little bit now. So, Resat, you have your 10 minutes. Yeah, if less, even better. Okay?
Thank you very much. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. So I'll just put a few disclaimers first of all. It's a very mundane or a very simplistic overview of my thesis, and that's why I haven't really put in references. I put this together very quickly, but I hope the main ideas come across. And so what I'll do first is I'm going to talk about, describe the main problem, all right, as you can see, that my thesis is tackling. The second thing will be the primary issue, which I identify actually as methodology. The third thing is how there's a problem-solution mismatch. And the fourth is we'll talk something a little about systems theory from a social science perspective, and then we'll look at some of the insights from my studies. So it's very simplistic and straightforward. So a summary of the problem, right? Malaysian Islamic banking system at the time and even currently has been displaying some systemic problems. Okay, and these can be summarized into two main trends. The first trend is observed by what I call mainstreamists, and mainstreamists are basically industry people in the industry, practitioners. First thing they note is that in recent years there has been a declining performance of the Malaysian Islamic banking sector. Now, how we define performance can be in a few ways, but chiefly let's look at two. The first one is that there has been a saturation in Islamic finance, all right? And basically the growth rate has been slowing down. The second thing or area we can look into is its competitiveness relative to conventional banking. And we can see that Islamic banking modes are not as competitive inherently as conventional modes. Why? Because they have a higher risk profile, and they are less efficient, and they are less profitable. And all of these trends have actually been analyzed in the literature review and shown. So this is the first trend. So industrialists have a problem, or practitioners have a problem with Islamic banking, and difficult to come up with a solution. The second trend that we notice is with people we refer to as structuralists. And these are people who want Islamic finance or Islamic banking to change. And the problem they have is that Islamic finance or Islamic banking looks very similar to conventional banking. And if we look at the way we do Islamic finance or Islamic banking, the impact and the way we do it is actually very similar. So this was the second problem. And when we look at both these issues, trend 1 and trend 2, that means the practitioners have an issue, as well as people who wanted to change, the idealists or the structuralists. We noticed that nothing can be really done about it, meaning that there is an inherent impasse between the two. And industrialists, for example, practitioners, they criticize the structuralists for being too ideological and not being pragmatic, and the structuralists criticize the mainstreamists for not being respecting Islamic values and social values and things like that. So we're kind of stuck in this space. So that's essentially the problem. Now, my thesis identifies the main issue as, or the primary or the underlying core issue as, the methodology. And if you look at economic methodology, right, on the left side you can see that economic methodology tends to be very atomistic, right? We tend to focus on very specific variables, and our methodology is very empirical or positive, as we were talking about just now, and extremely mathematical. Meaning to say that if you want your articles or your ideas to circulate, it has to be usually mathematical is the way to get it done, right? So methodology kind of restricts the growth of that the discipline. But if you look at what Islamic banking needs, right, or if you look at the financial system, Islamic financial system, right, the methodology we need is something where we're able to assess normative. When we talk about normative, we're talking about values, right? Something is good or bad, or how things should be. Now, when you look at it from an Islamic perspective, it's all about norms, right, and values. But if you look at the methodology from economic methodology, it's really silent. In fact, one of the first things we learn in economics is that it's a positive science. It's value neutral. It does not want to be biased, right? And that's why it leans towards the mathematical aspect. And that's why we see that the methodology is not catered to dealing with, you know, system-wide problems. It's good at focusing on aspects of the system, but not the system as a whole. And so what is the problem then is that we have, the core issue is that we have a problem-solution mismatch. We have a problem with the Islamic financial system or the Islamic banking system, but we do not have a way to assess what those problems are. Why? Because the methodology we have is not geared towards solving systemic problems. So we're trying to fix holistic or systemic problems with atomistic methods. And this is where the mismatch is. And you can see the pictures, right? Like it gives you a hint of what it is. But what does this mean in terms of academic literature? So when we look at academia, right, one of the things is that we have many, many studies. It's not to say that we're lacking studies in Islamic finance. There's so many studies. But the problem is that because of that atomism, we have a lot of output, but we have no way of determining a clear hierarchy of what is the relationship with all these different areas. To give you an example, people have studied efficiency, people have studied risk profile, people have studied levels of revenue, competitiveness, right? All of these things, we have so many papers. But what is the relationship between all these different variables? What is the hierarchy? Which is affecting which? Is it revenue that's affecting it? Is it the risk profile? So there's a lot of literature coming out, and unfortunately there's no way of sorting through all that literature. So this is one issue. And the result is that because there's so many issues, a young scholar who's just jumping into the science, who's going into Islamic finance, they can kind of pick anything that they're interested in, or anything where there's lobbying or there's financing, and make that their area of focus. And you know, they can say, well, I'm now an Islamic, you know, financialist or banker. So there's convenient greenwashing, and you know, that's why we can see that whenever we leave standards up to the industry, it's a very convenient standard, right? So we are able to come up with procedural methods that are not necessarily upholding Islamic values, right? Like if you look at Islamic finance, what is so special about Islamic finance that it is giving to the Muslims, or you know, to people who are unable to get access to finance? Right? There's hardly any difference if we look at the industry, right? So when you think of it in practice, there's no real change in its form, in its substance. So this is one issue we have in the academic literature. When you look at the Malaysian Islamic banking system itself, we see that Islamic values, the way what we're trying to do is we're trying to attain Islamic values using conventional incentive mechanisms, right? If you look at many studies, right, we say that Islamic finance is actually independent of the interest rate. But if you do a study of the movements of interest rate over time and the profit rate over time, which is what Islamic banks follow, we see that they're moving in the same direction. When interest rates go up, you see the profit rate also going up. So therefore, it is actually not independent. And the profit rate is actually being shaped or guided by the interest rate. So we're trying to actually reach Islamic solutions using a system that doesn't even cater to Islamic values. Yeah. Okay. So when we look at, so what I have to do was come up with a methodology which is broader. And because of that, my study looked into something called the general systems theory. And this was created by Ludwig van Bertalanffy. He's a German economist, not really an economist, but his idea is very simple. He says that the entire system, right, there's one big system composed of multiple subsystems. And that's what his general systems theory is, that there's one system composed of multiple systems. So I tried to take that approach, and if you look at it from an Islamic perspective, I'm glad that, you know, the Tawhidic worldview was brought up. But if you look at it, it's very similar to what Islam says, that, you know, there is one creator and everything emanates from this one creator, right? Which is Allah, and that's the same thing. So we have to look at it from a very coherent, systemic perspective. And Islamic economy is basically one of those subsistences that belongs to a grand system. So there was no real methodology, systems methodology in economics, so I had to adapt one from management. And long story short, it came down to the system. If you want to carry out a systems analysis, at least from how I did it, it is actually trying to understand the incentive mechanisms that are at play within an economy. So if we want to Islamize, we have to make sure that the incentives for a person to become Islamic, to act in an Islamic manner, uphold social justice, follow Islamic values, those incentives have to override the conventional incentives around us, the ones that provoke our greed, our nafs and things like that. So essentially it came down to that. And when we look at the Islamic financial system, it doesn't really do that. Okay, so the ultimate thing is that Islamic finance has been copying conventional finance, all right? And as a result, there has been adoption without any adaptation, right? And there's been clear emulation and there's dependence, right? And banking system values, that's the second point, banking system values come from the economic system of their origin. So another thing is, where did our current banking system values, Malaysian banking system values come from? It's the ones that we imported in Malaysian history. Like when we wanted to design the Islamic financial system, we basically copied the conventional system. Where did the conventional system come from? Right? We inherited during our colonial times. Okay? So essentially what we imported was the Anglo-Saxon banking system, which is basically the English-speaking economic system, which is from the capitalism that we're so familiar with. Okay? So the conclusion here is that, yes, we have the mainstreamists fighting the structuralists, right? But the problem is bigger than both of them. They're stuck in a system that each of them by themselves cannot influence without help. So how do we go? What are the implications of this? All right. So that means that because we're caught in a system, what we need to focus on is fixing the incentive structures within a system, right? And that means that we need a more social and spiritual orientation. That means our incentive mechanisms have to be designed along these lines. We need to change mindsets not only at the individual level, right? But also we have to change it at the institutional level, because human behavior is now shaped by institutions, right? Institutions are actually shaping human behavior, like our education systems, our offices, our environment that we exist within, our social systems as well. Another thing is we should focus on non-mainstream issues. One of the things that economics does is it focuses on the most popular form of economics, right? Which is the one that is based on the capitalism that we know, which is Anglo-Saxon capitalism. But there are other economic systems out there which are more socially oriented. If we look at welfare capitalism, right? If we look at the German social market economy, these are actually very, very unique. In fact, the German social market economy defines liberalism in a very different way than Anglo-Saxon capitalism, right? But it's something we tend to overlook. We just lump all of them together and we say that, look, this is the West, this is bad, do not engage. But actually we see that there is actually good there, like Prof. Fathi was telling us earlier, that we have to engage, right? Finally, right, what is the implications of Islamization? Basically the government has to play an active role. We cannot leave it to the market. Okay, the government has to make systemic changes and try and create and move industries towards those areas. And we see economies doing this every time, right? We see this happening in America. We see this in any country that's doing a 30-year plan, 50-year plan. We see that planning there. It's just that we are not doing the right things. What is the role of academia? We should not disengage with conventional knowledge, right? This is something very clear. And it's something Prof. Aslam just alluded to, like when economists go towards conventional knowledge, mainstream or non-mainstream, it's seen with criticism, because they think that we're stupid, we're just going to adopt the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. But that's not always true, right? We have to engage. But we need to engage in a more comprehensive way. We have to remove the mainstream bias. Okay, and we need to develop the means of academic engagement using, for example, methodology, ontology, and epistemology, right, as was mentioned very clearly earlier on. So that's essentially it.
Thank you very much. 13 minutes. Okay. Fine, that's a good start. So yeah, now to Fathi, if you have comment, or if there's anybody else who has got any comment, you can take a few minutes of that. Go to the next. So this is a systems need to change the system. So Islamization or integration as a way to change that overall.
Who is the audience of this kind of work and understanding?
Generally,
you are addressing whom?
Oh, okay. Mainly, I'm addressing academicians as well as the industry. The issue is that whenever academicians produce something at a qualitative level, industrialists or practitioners generally are like, okay, this makes sense, but where are the numbers? And as a result, there is not enough engagement with some of the research. Only the research which is relevant to banks. For example, you can show something with risk analysis. So generally those are the narrow things, not the systemic elements. So the bias in the industry is when they listen to only specific, very atomistic things, right? So how to bring about change? Well, it's about trying to bring awareness amongst policymakers and even think tanks to try and make governments understand that they have to take a more proactive role in system design and
if you think of the major decision maker in the country and you give him these ideas, what can he do or don't?
So I think it's still at it's a level of it's a very infant stage, you could say, very nascent stage. So I imagine if you bring something like this, it has to have a lot more clout, in the sense that maybe we need more organizations or institutions saying these things for credibility. In other words, we need to build critical mass. So the idea is that if we can get our younger generations and our students to think in the same way, that what we need is institutional change, and it's about the total incentive environment that we need to affect or change, then I think it can gain some traction.
Dr. Fathi, let me just add, for decades there has been an academia and practitioner divide. And in the 90s, in the early 2000s, basically academics were just told, you guys don't know anything. But what has happened in the last 15 years, because of the reasons Riyasat has pointed out, that profit levels have started to fall, Islamic banks are now finding it more difficult to compete. The government itself in Malaysia came up with something in 2017 called value-based intermediation for Malaysia. They want Islamic banks to go beyond profit. Now, to me, that indicates that whatever we were saying previously, now they have realized that there is something to it. Now, the motivation may not be anything noble. It was just been that they are losing out and they need a new place. But they have also now started to look beyond profit. So, did we have anything to do with it? Did academics make the change? I don't want to say yes, but at least now they are looking at the things that we were talking about. So it gives an opportunity.
Something alternative, at least.
The final thing that I kind of downplayed in my thesis was the last part of the thesis, which basically tried to find a solution. And as I said, the general model is that we have an economic system, and the banking system comes from there, and it has the same values. So when we looked at the German banking model, economic model, right, we had a banking model which is actually quite unique, in the sense that it recognized stakeholders, right, like at a higher level than conventional banks. And it even performed better during the crisis period comparatively to conventional banks. And these are banks which are, for example, preferring SME funding and equity financing over debt financing. So that was very interesting. So one of the takeaways was that practitioners say, where is the evidence? Where are the numbers? But maybe we're not looking in the right place. If we look at the German banking experience, we will actually see that there are positive implementations of more stakeholder-friendly banking models. So that could be alternative economic systems or banking systems could be a way we can develop practical means to
At least one
realize-
alternative.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they can see the screen. Can you
Oh,
double check with them?
those on Zoom, are you able to see the screen?
In color.
Methodology for economic development? Dr. Ahmad Lubis, are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, you can see.
All right, great, thank you.
What happened with the camera?
No, the camera is okay. The camera is not clear, it's fine. But as long as the screen is there, it's okay.
No, it's good. So now it's fine. Just to
Could
click
I
once.
just add one question on yours? You're talking about methodology. What's the goal? The consequence? What do you want to produce?
The goal is to basically try and find, like, analyze things at a larger.
No, what do you want to produce in the society?
A different environment.
Yeah.
What?
Basically looking at different basically a more inclusive system of.
Inclusive means what? Meaning here, loans.
Including different narratives. No, like,
people getting loans, people getting jobs. What? Increased economy, more reduced inequality. What?
So conventional banking is very focused on the shareholder and the bank's well-being.
Yeah.
So by looking at other models of banking, we're looking at banking models which reward the community as well as smaller banks.
For what
and things.
purpose? What's the goal at the end? What are you trying? What kind of community are you trying to produce?
So the idea is that the amount of welfare, like let's say generated by a banking system, is now exclusive to one group of people.
Yes.
Now it's being spread out more. So that means that the value creation is distributed more equally amongst a larger group of people.
And justification for that?
What do you mean? Like,
how do you justify distributing it? There'll be higher risk now. Islam, for instance, will not loan to most businesses. Will only loan to buying houses to people who already can afford it, and therefore reduce the risk. You're now trying to increase the risk.
Oh, so
how do you justify them doing it?
So there's generally, if you look at the empirical evidence, all right, like you have debt-based financial systems versus more equity-leaning financial systems. Equity meaning that they're funding businesses and things like that, as opposed to consumer financing. The stability on the equity financing side is higher, and yeah. Whereas if you're going for consumer lending and things like that, then
no, but yes, in terms of money. But what's the goal? You want to reduce inequality?
I mean,
what's the Islamic goal?
Oh, you mean, yeah, so basically, like I said, there's concentration of this something with only shareholders, right? So when you're looking at other ways, then there's more wealth moving around. It's really that straightforward.
I think Omar Chapra said this very well. Has Islamic economics contributed to the well-being of the Ummah? Muhammad Shazwan, can you please mute? Rashad, where is Shazwan? He's talking on the... Where is Shazwan? Please mute.
That was the NFL championship.
Okay, so basically the well-being of the Ummah. I think that's the idea. Are Islamic banks contributing to the well-being of the Ummah as a whole? So that I think is probably what is being proposed now by modifying the banking system that you have. Okay. All right, so thank you. We go to the second, unless there's any last comment. Okay, Dr. Jasmine, you have 10 minutes, of course. Yeah, please.
Yeah, just I want to put the timer. All right, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I actually will be presenting now a kind of maybe more advanced level and refurbished version of my research that I have done for 5 years in my PhD, but also experience as I acquired during my teaching for 1 semester, and then hearing different people talk. And I'll just say in the beginning, as a refresher, I don't claim I'm an expert, and related to the question of how do we know what we do, is being done as Islamizers, or are we really doing integration of knowledge? I'm just, what I did when I started my PhD Of course, I didn't have PhD, so I just pretended I know what I'm doing, and I did it. So that's the way we do it. So while others are beating around the bush and saying, I don't know, I just pretended I know, and I went into the bush.
You assume you knew.
So,
you assume you knew.
Yeah, and sometimes we think we don't know, but we don't know we know. So we basically just need to say we know. All right, so today I'll be talking on methodology for economic development. I put there economic because it's not just Islamic economics per se. It's basically economic development for everyone. Integration of knowledge, Islamization, but integration per se today is basically universally appealing. That is something I adopted. And it's about Islah and Tajdeed, reform and renewal. So I'll be talking about what was done for about half a century in IOK, which is Islamization of knowledge. We'll skim through the frameworks, the rationale, why I did what I did and what I do now. Third, explaining the issue of Islamization of knowledge through a thematic trend of writings and why integration of knowledge is crucial today. Then the need to distinguish between the two, the small o and big O, and a definition of integration is given. We will see the framework I developed and at the end conclude with a hopefully appealing example that is extracted from my recently published article in 2023. So Islamization of modern knowledge started like, this is number one, started half a century ago. So the idea basically by definition of Islamization is about elimination, amending, reinterpretation, adaptation, transformation, review and so on, to recast knowledge from the Islamic perspective, to rethink, to reorder, rejuvenate, and so on. So let's go and just skim through these frameworks. I don't know how to get rid of the ribbon of the Zoom, but I don't intend to talk about these models, but I just want to say, in general, we can see these are the 12 steps. Then we have another more refurbished version, and this framework, the 12 steps, has caused debate for a long time. And it was really talked for about 40 years. And then there came new frameworks, kind of refurbishments by different scholars. I don't know whose is this, maybe Luay Safi's. This is a simplified version of that model, again Luay Safi. And we see there always the Western knowledge, the modern bodies of knowledge and Islamic legacy, production of Islamized knowledge. Maybe this is Ragab's framework. So we see kind of similarities, and it's very general. It talks about ontology, mainly epistemology. This is Sheikh Alwani's model, the 6 discourses. Then he has been shifting more towards the legacy, the ulum al-Quran, approach, understanding and being able to Islamize only when we root ourselves in sciences of Quran and Hadith as the essential sources. This is the engagement approach of Ibrahim Ragab. And he had few of these, 95, 97 framework. So I just wish to skim through. I don't aim to explain. You have all familiarized yourself with this for the past 30 years, even studied it as students. Then there is a simplified attempt, to depict the thinking, at least in a kind of framework of Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Attas. And of course, this does not represent, but it is more comprehensive. It's more comprehensive. It involves individual aspects and community aspects of Islamization. So now I'll go to explain the rationale why I did what I did and what I do now. I moved in my research from the problem of physicalist ontology, leveling everything to physical matter, rationalist epistemology, taking reason as the kind of source of knowledge without revelation, axiological futility, kind of eliminating the relevance of normativism, and there's just technical analysis and quantification and methodological deficiency. But contemporary sustainable development goals, ESGs, environmental sustainability and governance, maqasid studies, maqasid sharia studies, purposive approaches and integration of knowledge kind of developments and research is indicating for a need for a more nuanced, normative and quantitative methodology, therefore integration of knowledge. Modern economics in the past 300 years is a discipline that developed, and the Schumpeterian gap is more widely acknowledged today than ever before. So that's a kind of space and room where we can come in and show.
Not everybody may know this Schumpeterian gap.
Schumpeterian gap is, Joseph Schumpeter has written a book, it's a history of economic analysis, and he has said that the Schumpeterian gap is basically the 5 centuries from the 7th century until the 11th or 12th century of economic analysis, where the Western economic kind of analysis and approach is always explaining the development from the Greek times and maybe Roman times, and then skips 5 centuries saying that we have not been doing anything, we just stopped for a while, have a break, holiday, and then we start at the 12th century.
Dark Ages.
Yeah, the Dark Ages. Well, the Dark Ages and the plagues and death kind of diseases were in the, let's say, Roman Empire. On the other side, you had the golden age of Islamic civilization, and that golden age is basically conceptualized as the Schumpeterian gap. But this is more widely acknowledged by scholars nowadays to say that they have utilized and learned. Thomas Aquinas has learned from Ghazali, has learned from Ibn Sina in their writings, and they have then evolved their ideas to what we today have. In the 16th centuries, we have Adam Smith and others coming up with the other. But then even later on, they learned from Ibn Khaldun and other scholars. So this is more and more acknowledged, where they have got the initial ideas, and of course they did improve it, like we are today improving things, how research is done in general. Then we see there's also, there was a shift in the Christian paternalistic ethic from more philosophical, ethical, moral writings to positivistic shift. So why? Why was that happening? We can see that's the problem. It was happening because for them, change is permanent. Everything changes. So there's nothing that doesn't change. But from a thoughtful Muslim, I put here deliberately a thoughtful Muslim, because a Muslim who doesn't think will basically accept and buy that story. But a thoughtful Muslim will say that there are certain things that remain the base, actually the headquarters, and these things, they don't change.
HQ doesn't change, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, the HQ doesn't change. As
always funded, huh?
Yeah, so it will be the same. IIIT established in Virginia is still there. So we are here now in UIA. This is a branch, but the HQ is there. But it doesn't de-relevantize the impact we can make as well. All right, so the future of IE, Islamic economic development, is through mastering knowledge integration. I put here KI, and even integration of knowledge. So we can use these interchangeably and kind of widen the discourse. We don't need to stick to, and I think Prof. Malkawi mentioned that we can benefit from all these different integration contributions. So what is first to do? Cut off your intellect from any cultural elements, habits, locality, home. This is the core of Islamization that Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Attas was saying. If you wish to really feel a free human being, you have to cut off yourself from any prejudice, cultural norms. And then you have to approach the study of, let's say, integration of knowledge, or, that's where you can establish, you can relate to truth, and the truth, haqq, is related to haqiqah, which is the reality, and truth is justice. And the core Naqib al-Attas was talking about is about justice. And justice is universal. Therefore, integration of knowledge is universal. Hence, to universalize our mindset is necessary. We need to enable self-critique, innovation, creativity of and from anyone and everyone. So change what you learned, heard, saw, and did for years without hesitation. That's something that is necessary, not to stick to the past. All right, so what I did in my research in Ph.D. is basically I looked at the trend of Islamization of knowledge kind of writings, and I did identify shifts to integration. So we have here these 3 themes. I'll not discuss each of one of them, but it's for you to see that the first one, the T1, is about the general kind of ontology, epistemology, axiology writings in Islamization of knowledge kind of movement since the, let's say, 60s or 70s. Then we have a kind of more, I did find writings that have been talking more specifically about, my time is finished, about ontology, epistemology, and so on, and then critical issues, relativity of Islamization and degrees of integration. There needs to be a focus on methodology appraisal, which hasn't been done, and applications are needed. They have not been done, but it was talked about. So the need to distinguish between these two is crucial. Because if we have the big IOK, Islamization of knowledge, and continue with big IOK, others will simply link us to what has been done in the past. So we have to have a new approach with the small o, or even KI, knowledge integration. So why not to have that to kind of liberalize the discourse and enable others to come in and contribute. All right. Okay. So this is the shift from, this is the adoption of integration and applying it in Islamic economics. So again, of course, we don't de-relevantize what has been done before. We have the reference to legacy, to modern knowledge. Critical issues are important to address, and we need to have basically a focus on methodology. We have to have a quest on methodological appraisal, finding and developing, finding principles, operationalizing them, and then appraising theories. All right, so here are some definitions of integration of knowledge. Bianco, which is a Western knowledge integration definition, look at what he said. The yellow thing should rather serve to expose the inextricable imbrication that binds all domains of reality. So meaning it includes also revelation. The second one is from a knowledge integration of knowledge seminar in University Malaya by current Prime Minister Sir Anwar Ibrahim. He said that, as I mentioned as well, the HQ needs to remain the same, meaning Aqidah, the issues of ethics, akhlaq, they remain unshaken. So that's the essential thing, the core. Everything else is under the realm of mutaghayyirat, the changeable. And this is my definition that I developed, a methodological principles-guided collective reasoning. We need to have principles or ijtihad in the interaction between the turath and the modern bodies of knowledge, non-turath as well, non-Islamic turath. And that is how we approach the developed disciplines. So to have true integrated knowledge and disciplines. All right, so this is the framework. The first part, the above, the IOK / small IOK, integration of knowledge, from Islamization to integration. That is what has been discussed for 50 years, perhaps, and maybe more, perhaps more. But we need to focus on the second part. And this is not just for economics, this is for discipline development, any discipline, as you can see. Under the S5, S3, you can see mu'amalat disciplines. And then we have methodology, collective ijtihad, and any discipline can adopt this approach. And the proposed principles, permissibility, acceptability. The permissibility from the maxim, al-aslu fil ashya'i ibaha. So we have to look at it. And then we move on to operationalize the examples, identify in certain examples, in processes, these elements, and analyze it through these principles. Acceptability, let's go to the example, which is the conclusion. This is an extracted short preview from this paper, which you can refer to, it's free for download. Permissibility. Permissibility of matters of certain financial activity is the first thing we are concerned about. The second thing, we have acceptability. The second level of analysis, the principle. We can have there, perhaps it's permissible, but it's not acceptable now because maybe the resources that we need to kind of do that activity are too pricey nowadays. So we need to wait or maybe focus on other activities that may be more affordable. Legality is not just in terms of law, in the legislation, but it's also in terms of the philosophical foundations, and the higher objectives of Sharia. So let's say we may by law be able to build something or conduct certain activity, but the land where we are building it is disputed. Some other people say it belongs to us, has not been resolved. So we need to kind of look at ensuring that we are completely, without any deficiencies, proceeding to conduct certain activity. Let's say if we speak about agricultural activity, some projects. From legality, we also go to genuine reference to authentic prophetic sources. And we did this has been done, but somehow the problem, as Sheikh Jasir Auda says in his book, Reinventing Islamic Scholarship, is that many times, even in Islamic banking finance, there is an apologetic approach. And as Tariq Ramadan says, we can suspend the thawabit. And that has been done. The thawabit, the fixed ahkam al-thawabit, they have been suspended at a time. And that's no problem in suspending, certain, let's say, riba is at the beginning, we starting to develop the system, we adopt, riba as integral to the system. But then, there has not been done effort in subsequent actions to really eliminate riba and make it zero, and then foster more equity-based development. So the problem is not about suspension. The problem is about the lack of effort and willingness, the will, the individual, to stay true to the foundations and take the risk to improve matters. So that's what's needed today. And that's where we refer to authentic sources. Do we really want to be better Muslims, or we are just pretending to be willing to be better Muslims? So then, we also, of course, refer to the authority. When we have authenticity, we also refer to authority, and authority is also their sources, but at the same time, the current authority, let's say the Jakim authority, Islamic community in a certain country, authorities, intellectuals, scholars, so we refer to them and we see, are we in line with their thinking? So it's a collective ijtihad. And then, at the end, of course, which is also in the beginning necessary, but we kind of live in reality. So we look there at the context, the contextual adaptability. If we, at the end of the day, also see that after all the work has been done, the research, that the context is actually disabling us to fully apply certain things the way we define them, then we need to adapt to the context. But remember that we have defined a better version of our activity, and then while the context is being dealt with, we are actually trying to improve and apply the original theory that we have developed, and then reach, and create better welfare. And that's where, basically, in my paper, I explain that's the approach and methodology where we are bridging the divide between Islamic finance and conventional finance, or Islamic economics, conventional, or we have sociology and Islamic sociological contributions, psychology, Islamic psychology, political science, or in perhaps medicine too. You get facts, you get regressions, whatever, statistical data, but you are willing to look at the normative or philosophical foundations and reinterpret it in such light. So at the end of the day, what is essential in all this process is to forget any cultural aspects, prejudices, any prejudgments, predetermined elements, and leave all those attachments behind and work objectively with all the matters that we are dealing with.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, that's the end.
Jasmine. Okay, I think the last question, the last comment of the Bisham is, can you actually do that? Is there really
the color of my skin keeps reminding me of my culture, so it's still problematic.
I mean, this is a debate as well, right? Can there be objective? Okay, so yes, Dr. Fathi or anyone else, if there's any query. So, I think one of the things that I thought Jasmine's thesis contributed was the principles that were put forward, because methodology in social science, some of the scholars have said, is the reasons behind the principles that make something valid. So what are the principles that would guide Islamic methodology? And so those 7 or 8 that we came up with, that is something that, of course, can still be discussed and debated.
I have one point, Dr. Jasmine, this one. May I know, because in the methodology, the focus from now onwards, you basically divided knowledge into two, modern knowledge and legacy knowledge. So I presume legacy knowledge you are referring to Turath.
Yeah, to the Turath, the Islamic Turath, but also the other civilizational Turath.
Okay, and then I know, why did you isolate maqasid, objective, to be like, I don't know, to be somewhere alien, or the last one on the
Actually,
bottom.
It is.
You do know that the Turath lives within us. We also interpret it.
Yeah, Turath and Turab. But why I put maqasid there, it's a good question actually. Actually, maqasid is defined, instead of having a problem-oriented research approach, we actually, as let's say, I think even in the Islamic civilization, scholars did not only have a problem that they were addressing and trying to resolve the problem, but they had a higher purpose in their mind, because they had a mindset shaped by the Islamic worldview. That's at the very top. But they had at the very end a clear vision, a purpose-oriented approach, and maqasid that they wish to achieve. So that's why, while we are doing all this work, we need to have that purpose-oriented mindset that we wish to achieve that kind of greater welfare, maqasid, higher objective of Sharia. And it's not just about preserving life, preserving religion and so on, but it's beyond that. That's just elementary maqasid. But beyond it, we need to have some other socio-economic, civilizational, human maqasid. Umran, kind of. That's why it comes at the bottom, but it does not mean, because you see the arrows are two. So it's all related. All the arrows are two-sided. So meaning they are all related, and we can go back and we need to integrate all this into one holistic kind of framework or mindset, philosophy, and deal with it comprehensively with some sense of hudur, presence. So we need to be present, focused, sharp when we deal with these.
Because I would have thought that I mean maqasid or objective might be better placed. I mean it should be part of the legacy, because the one that you mentioned, even the one that we go beyond the fundamental five, these are what our classical scholars have talked about, and also not forgetting the issues that some scholars also basically totally reject, the discussion of identifying higher objective among the classical scholars.
All modern law identifies higher objective. All modern law identifies higher objective.
No, I'm just saying.
No, normal law today identifies higher objectives. That's why we
What he's saying is that in that legacy, you have the people who supported, you have the people who didn't support. It's part of the legacy.
You're making too much of a distinction between modern knowledge all of a sudden it comes from nowhere.
Totally
no, modern knowledge actually
no issue with you.
I mean when you have
no issue.
when you have the legacy
why it's not part of the legacy knowledge.
It is
isolated.
It is actually part.
The legacy issue. You have as if there's a distinction between modern man and classical man. It's a continuation. Islam is part of Western society actually, Western civilization. We created part of system. We influenced the Western civilization. It's not distinct. We're not just totally from Mars or something. We actually created, we were influenced by Greek and Roman, but we also influenced the Renaissance and the Enlightenment.
Yeah, but I get his question. He's mentioning, is the maqasid also integral to legacy knowledge? Of course it is. It is integral, and when we generally speak about maqasid sharia, we will not put at the bottom, for instance, hadaf, which is like goal. We will, all scholars, the kind of established terminology is we are looking to attain some maqasid. But whatever maqasid contributions have been done, it's all part of either modern knowledge, if it's part of the modern times, modern bodies of knowledge on maqasid sharia, let's say the last 2 centuries, and legacy knowledge is all before, from the Al-Juwayni, Al-Ghazali, until the next 7-8 centuries.
What's the line that you use to separate between legacy and modern? Yeah, specific time period? Or is
that is something that again scholars have been perhaps redefining. We can consider modern knowledge to be in maybe from half of the 19th century. That's subjective.
I mean, from your research, I mean, what was the separation that you used?
The secularization of
I have, in my research, I considered modern knowledge to be from the half of the 19th century onwards. Basically, we can even say the 20th century. Because the tanzimat in the Osmanli Caliphate, which is the reforms, the massive reforms of modernization of the Osmanli Caliphate, happened around 1870s. And these tanzimat have brought in modernity to a greater degree, and decade after decade it was intensifying. So perhaps in the 20th century, that is where there was more discourse on the translation of works from the European languages to Arabic, the first generation or the foundational Islamic economists. The generations of Islahi, I also refer to that, the generations of Islamic economists. The first generation is basically the end of the 19th century, starting of the 20th century.
You know, if I can add one more thing to Fathi. This is another problem when we write either teaching materials. When you try to present it in this kind of diagrams, two-dimensional diagrams, creates lots of problems. You know, like, the top there where you have many books on, especially talking about fiqh. Whenever they write, they will talk about Sharia, made up of Islam, Iman, Ihsan. And then under Islam they will put Munakahat and all these things. Then you ask yourself, will you say there is no Ihsan in these things? Because the arrow goes down from Islam. So I think sometimes when we translate our ideas into diagrams, it can be very problematic, especially when people have different views about this. Using Venn diagrams mean a lot to the mathematician. I remember once we had a big argument. You put two circles, even touching each other. Apparently, the mathematicians cannot be like that. So this I think this is also another challenge when you do diagrams.
I'll be saying what my lecturer used to say to us in the class. This is the best framework on the whole world.
Okay, please. Any other comments?
It's always with these diagrams to simplify into more than one diagram. Each diagram would deal with a certain concept to be more obvious and clear to it. For example, when we talk about maqasid, you know, the well-known maqasid for everyone is the five maqasid, حفظ النفس إلى آخره. While Dr. Alwani and myself developed the idea of the three higher level maqasid, التوحيد, التزكية, والعمران, which encompass all other aspects. You can put in the Tawheed many other items related to the relevance of Tawheed. Tazkiyah related to the individual person and the society. Umran is related to the civilization in general, which encompass Muslims and non-Muslims at the same time. So under each one you can put a diagram for the details of this, the details of that, and so on.
And in a latest presentation by Dr. Daud Bakar, who's the main person in Islamic banking, he came up with a new view, very, very radical to me. If you find something mentioned in the Quran, is it 20 or 25 times? It is a maqasid. So I thought that was really very...
10 times.
Yeah?
If something is
10 times?
Yeah, 10 times. It's considered qualifying to become a maqasid. So we find more data to support. But as far as you mentioned, to simplify the framework, all these different themes, I removed some slides. The T1, T2, T3, they are actually transformed into stages. So the T1 is S1, T2 is S3, the black one. And then even here we have T1, 2, 3, 4, these are S something, and then
only so you and your reviewers would have understood, not even the supervisor.
The S1 to S6 is basically all themes, and the thesis talks in detail about every aspect of the framework.
Then you put things together to the comprehensive understanding.
Well, since I had 10 minutes and I still violated, it was not possible.
Okay, any comment? Anybody on Zoom? Would you have any comment to make? I mean,
why is that the ihsan and iman is excluded?
Yes.
No, it's included.
No, based on the faith and the structure.
Why is there no arrow going from ihsan downwards? Yeah, agreed.
See, so all of that, that's what I was saying.
I mean, because usually in many diagrams they do it like this, but because there should also be an arrow.
It's integral. It's integral to Islam.
Because it should be integrated, right?
Yeah. So there should be arrows connecting them. That's what he's saying.
It is connecting because ihsan is connected with Islam, and iman is connected with Islam, and iman with ihsan. So there is an arrow. Just that maybe it can be.
But there's no arrow there.
Yeah, you need to put it like it's okay. These are all diagrams.
Between assume.
Do I have another 10 minutes?
No. Okay, now just to ask those who are here, anybody else would like to make something with their own area or something you would like to, even if it's not presentation, just to to speak for a few minutes, and at least we get to hear it and there can be some inputs given.
I will start with comment one.
Oh, okay.
This mention. When you mention about doing the work of integration, you might cut yourself from the agriculture, home, locality, and everything. So do you mean how about Islam? Whether we have to cut ourselves from Islam as well in order to integrate knowledge?
No, Islam is of course the religion, so you don't become murtad and then Islamized, of course, that's not possible.
So it is a similar concept which has been propounded by the Westerners in terms of the wheel of ignorance.
Yeah.
John Rawls and Groucho and all those philosophers. And when they talk about this, they have their own ideas behind their mind. That they are mostly based on irrationals. So whatever my rational will say, I will go there. They don't have any judgment or criteria that will evaluate them whether it is right or wrong. But for Muslims, we have the criteria, the Islam, the guidance of the Quran or Hadith. That will be guiding us time to time. So I don't know whether you have explained it in your thesis or not, but if it is not, should be explained that for the Islamization of knowledge or integration of knowledge from Islamic perspective, we must not ignore the Islamic sense in our mind. And that also comes a kind of biasness. May the Westerners will impose on us that you are becoming the bias in terms of your evaluating the knowledge or even integrating the knowledge. Then there will be the questions how we tackle that issue, that whether we are biased or whether we are rational. So that will be the...
Yeah, well, basically what this means in the very definition, if you read the books of Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Attas, the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, or Islam and Secularism, you will see there that he says that you should, if you wish to proceed, before defining what is Islamization, he says you have to cut off yourself from thinking about any cultural, normative, prejudicial, predefined, aspects, and then approach the process of Islamization. It does not mean that you are saying, I will just ignore what Islam says, and so of course you are taking it as a foundation, but it's also in the wider discourse. It says that the maxim says al-'ada muhakkama or mahkama. So meaning 'ada is actually a source of Islamic law, Sharia. But the issue is that the 'ada is frequently in different context societies taken as a stronger kind of source than sometimes even the hukm. And sometimes we can proceed with certain 'ada, but we need to really be ready to kind of say we want to abandon this 'ada because that 'ada maybe is intoxicated and became kind of a negative 'ada or habit or cultural aspect. It is a burden on society, and the original teachings have been kind of subsided and put on a secondary level. So we need to switch this in the process of Islamization to put it at the top and to know what is the core and what is the sub-core. But we are not saying that 'ada culture is not important. But we need to, at the end of the day, say, all right, my ego aside, all right, my preference, my love to my country, my love to my culture aside, we want to establish, let's say, a authentic, let's say, Islamic university, or we want to make it like a new Medina society where everybody is on equal kind of standing. And then everybody has equal say or equal value. Everyone's word counts. So that is what I kind of mean. But by no means, of course.
But I think what is mentioned here is that what Dr. Fathi was saying, that even in this idea of what do you call it, trying to be free from everything, you have a case even in Western. But they have their ideas, you can accept, but then you can modify.
Part of tazkiyah.
Tazkiyah to nafs.
Part of tazkiyah.
So Naqib al-Attas also speaks when his kind of ideas of Islamization, it's not just about Islamizing the community, but Islamization starts from your own self. And I kind of relate also to the ideas of Tariq Ramadan when he speaks about identity. Who are you? Like the crisis of identity. Like, did we ever think, we who are born Muslims, why we are Muslims? Like, I always start with that question, why am I a Muslim? And if I am a Muslim, do I really want to become a better Muslim? Do I believe in the hereafter, as Prof. Malkawi is saying? So do I really want a greater hereafter? What is my purpose of my existence ontologically? So the ontology starts not from knowledge, and the other, but it starts from you. You define who you are and what's your ontology. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And then you kind of say, do I really do that? So you then pull yourself together and approach that go towards that direction, and then we kind of proceed higher and higher, and then do that together with others.
Yeah, we are. Basically, we are winding down. Dr. Fathi has another program in the afternoon, so we should give him some time to have his lunch and to rest a little bit before the afternoon session. Anyone, few more comments here and there? Just keep in mind about 5-6 minutes to go. What I would really like to do, and we spoke about
please
this.
let us welcome this young man.
Okay.
He's Bilal Majid Abu Ghazala. He's the son of Majid Abu Ghazala.
I see.
He just joined his graduate schools.
In IIUM or in which? In this ICT?
Yes, business information technology.
Alhamdulillah, welcome.
Business intelligence.
You're not cutting class, right? Today. What I would really like to do, and we've been talking about this the last time we were here previously, is that workshop that you talked about, that you organize, sometimes 1 week, I think you said. And I really hope we can do that. But that kind of workshop is not Dr. Fathi talking. From what I gather, from what he explained to me, it's going to require everybody who attends that workshop to really come prepared, and then to be sharing your work beforehand, and throughout that 5 days, assignments given, and then you work on it. The next day you present, comments are made. So really, it's at the end of that workshop, you should have, if you're talking about teaching materials project, by the end of the workshop, you should have maybe finalized 1, 2, 3 chapters of your book. Yeah, but that requires a lot of commitment from everyone. So I would love to do that. I mean, we IIIT here would love to have that kind of workshop, but it depends on the ability to commit, and be willing to have criticism. Not after the first day you're criticized, you decide to not come.
I will be very happy to attend this workshop that you do in this regard.
To attend? No.
To attend, yes.
We really hope, not only Dr. Fathi, even some others, to be the ones, because I really think that what maybe we kind of have shortcomings is this confidence. We're not confident, are we right? And therefore we want to feel, we want to get that, what is the word, support, that we are on the right track, and that gives us confidence.
It needs at least 4 months preparation.
4 months to prepare for that.
For those who are included in they have to
it
work
will be
hard.
just nice. This will be in our third semester.
In order to accept them in this workshop, they have to do hard work to bring with them. And then during the workshop, they will do something, go back, and after 4 months later, they will bring something more advanced. So it's a workshop, real workshop, work.
Yes. So I will discuss with Dr. Fathi about what can be done, and if we can work out something, we plan, a program maybe in the third semester, where we get a group of you coming in and see how it goes. I think that would be the way forward, because really the IOK agenda is meant for, of course, firstly for academics, because you are the ones going to write those teaching materials or do the research, but also for the PG students, because you all are also doing your thesis and so on, and many of you may decide to join academia, so it's meant for all of you. All right. Any last comments? Anyone? Welcome, Prof. Akram. Okay. Anyone on Zoom? Any comments? I hope some of you would also be able. You can't listen, or it's not. You mean you're not able to hear anything?
No sounds.
Oh wow.
No sounds.
Was this also the case for all the presentations?
it was recorded for the most part.
Can you hear us now? Is it anyhow better?
Yeah.
Prof. Aslam, try to speak. Can you
Are you able to hear now?
Yeah. Now,
You mean to say previously all this there was no sound?
I don't know.
The presentation?
I couldn't hear anything.
No, I think.
For how long you couldn't hear anything?
Oh, yes, a few minutes.
Just
okay, all right.
Because the
So
microphone
we were just basically saying that we want to organize a longer and more, a more organized, systematic workshop. Maybe in the third semester, which will be in I think July. I think.
Okay.
So if we can do something like that, we hope our colleagues will join us, Munira and the others, and
because we can ask from the Islamic department from other universities to listen to this discussion. I think this is good. And then you may have psychology, you may have also natural sciences. This is an effective way to see how IIT is implemented to the discipline. What I'd like to ask, since Dr. Fathi here, so nice to see you again, Dr. Fathi. I listened to your presentation and also I listened to the YouTube materials that you have. This IIT means really broad meaning, has broad meanings. So it will be interdiscipline, transdiscipline, multidiscipline, but we must add the Islamic perspective to that. Is it the right way to see to think about this IIT approach, Dr. Fathi? So this integration of knowledge, any knowledge integrate as long as it is related, but we have to add the Islamic perspective on the substance. Is it the right way to do? I mean, to see, to interpret this IOP in a further understanding of IOP?
If I understand what your question is about, is the relationship between specific knowledge in a certain discipline and knowledge in a category of disciplines, okay? And at the end, I say that this is the nature of human knowledge. So you put any certain discipline of knowledge within the larger structure of human knowledge. This is not something separate from others, but where is the right place to put it in? So within a certain discipline, you have the various components of knowledge in that discipline. As I mentioned in this pyramid of knowledge, facts, concepts, laws, and theories. Okay, but theories of a certain discipline is not also separate from theories of other disciplines. Like, for example, in economy, you cannot distinguish economy from sociology, for example. You cannot distinguish sociology from psychology. Okay, at the end, you have human knowledge, and the nature of human knowledge is integrated by itself if you really understand it. That's the idea of this kind of saying something about a certain discipline, a group of disciplines, a group of natural sciences, social sciences, etc. And that's where I don't like always to separate Islamic sciences from other sciences, because all sciences should be Islamic sciences. So sometimes when they name the college here, revealed knowledge, yes, okay, and social sciences, is that revealed knowledge not sciences in terms of knowledge?
Hisham is untouchable.
Yeah,
cannot question his knowledge. It's revealed.
Yeah, this is our own understanding, which might sometimes simplify things, but at the end, everything is integrated. That's the idea of this kind of.
Thank you very much, Dr.
I think this is really good, because maybe people do not understand this based on your explanation. Just this explanation. So we need to make it clear not to make it not to confusing people to understand IIT. And this IIT should be universal. I think, based on your understanding, this is universal approach.
Yeah.
I think this is very good. That's what Islam should, Islamic teaching is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in 1994, the main three universities in Jordan asked IIIT to organize a conference about al-ulum al-shar'iyya, okay, at the university level. And we يعني debated the idea that al-ulum al-shar'iyya, al-ulum al-islamiyya, does that mean that other kind of sciences are not Sharia, are not Islamic? So we came to the agreement that ulum al-sharia, not al-ulum al-shar'iyya. Okay, so it's just one way to make sure that everything could be Islamic according to the values you put in it and the purpose you use it for it.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Ahmad Lubis, who is the country rep for Indonesia, what he means is you are, needed in Indonesia.
No.
They have thousands of universities, millions of lecturers maybe, who need some kind of guidance, and I think this is the challenge that we face.
Thank you for attendance here.
So thank you.
Hope
thank you very much.
We'll continue.
Inshallah. We will continue.
Inshallah.
All right. So with that, thank everyone for your attendance and participation. I know it was a very short session. It should have been longer, but under the current situation, this is the best we could do this time. But we will work out something for July if we can, and we hope we will get more better output at the end of the day in terms of more people feeling more confident about what IOK is and what we are doing and why we are doing it and so on.
Inshallah.
So we look forward to that.
For more people pretend to know.
And for more people assuming that they know, at least. Okay.
That's the best way.
Let's just end. If Dr. Irwan, if you could just a short dua so that we can benefit from this and maybe in the future, please.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ارحم جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعد تفرقا معصوما. Oh Allah, please bless our gathering this morning and please bless our teacher today and bless everyone who attended this meeting with the beneficial knowledge. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
جزاكم الله خيرا. Very good. الحمد لله. يا الله.
Thank you very much. So this is tomorrow 2 weeks then.
Photo, yes, man. I should be here, right? I don't think we yeah, maybe decide better.
First brothers, then sisters or sisters first?
Sisters first.